CWR Breakfast
with Phil Upton.
At 9:25 on a Thursday morning, time to check in once again with our film reviewer, correspondent from Stratford-upon-Avon, James Luxford. Every Thursday morning gives us their good, bad and on-demand choices for movies across Coventry and Warwickshire. Hi, James.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us again on CWR this morning. I've just looked down your selections for this week and I cannot wait to hear what you think about your good choice this morning, because a lot of attention will be on this. Opens in cinemas across Coventry and Warwickshire tomorrow. Just tell us a bit more about this, would you?
Yes, it's one of those where we look at the release schedules and everything around it. There's no films being released around it because it's that big. My good this week is The Batman in cinemas Friday. It's a new version of Batman starring Robert Pattinson as the Dark Knight on the tale of a serial killer known as the Riddler.
I'm just here to unmask the truth about this cesspool we call a city. You're part of this too.
Hands up! Stay still!
How am I part of this? Oh, you're really not as smart as I thought you were. Bruce Wayne.
Robert Pattinson does dark well, doesn't he? So, I don't know. Is he a natural Batman, do you think, because of that?
I think so, yes. I think if you only know him from the Twilight films about a decade ago, you've missed a lot of good performances. He's spent sort of the last 10 years since leaving that role in really interesting independent films, and I think he is terrific as the Batman in this case. And the film itself is very interesting. I would think of it more as a detective story than an action movie or a traditional superhero film. More like I think it's got an inspiration of something like Seven from the 90s, and other sort of detective movies and TV series, things like True Detective and things like that. Obviously with the sort of violence toned down, although not that much toned down. I thought Robert Pattinson was great, as I've just said, and an incredible supporting cast, including Colin Farrell, who's completely unrecognisable as the Penguin, and Zoe Kravitz, who is kind of I suppose, an accomplice to Batman as the Catwoman. I think there's been a lot of Batman movies over the past few years, so there's going to be some things that are a little bit familiar, but this is exciting enough, I think, to distinguish itself from the pack, from the many Batman movies we've had over the past few years, and one that I think people are going to be very excited by.
It's really interesting that you say that, because there have been so many evolutions, hasn't there, of this, and depending, on your age and what you've grown up with, and depending who your Batman is, I suppose, really. So there'll be many, I'm sure, that will see Robert Pattinson and regard him as their Batman in years to come. It's out in cinemas across Coventry and Warwickshire as from tomorrow. The Batman. So that's the good. What's the bad?
A bad this week is Against the Ice on Netflix now. It's a survival film based on the real-life story to find the remains of an expedition that has made an incredible discovery in the Arctic.
What do you think really happened to the Denmark expedition?
You never think you can't make it. You always believe there'll be a way.
It's not working anymore.
There's no life. Didn't even see a bird. Is there a point where perhaps we want to give up?
We have a map, we will find it, and we will be back on the ship by August.
Now, this is on Netflix. It's a thriller, but you've put this as your bad this week, so what's wrong with it?
No, not very thrilling for me at all. It's an interesting premise about surviving in the harshest conditions, and obviously based on real life. But I think it was quite poorly told. The suspenseful scenes don't quite come together as they should. The effects are not that convincing. Overall, it never really feels as thrilling as it should be. like with the Batman, there are a lot of survival movies and TV shows with similar setups, and this just doesn't stand out from the crowd. I think if you're going to do something that's been done better before, you've got to have something a little bit different. This just doesn't have it for me.
Okay. So maybe give that one a miss if you see it on your Netflix suggestions. To your on-demand pick, James, and this on the BBC iPlayer.
Yes, on the iPlayer now, it's Misha and the Wolves, a documentary about an author famous for her memoir on the Holocaust who is hiding a shocking secret.
I was thinking this would make a fascinating book. My agent said Disney wants this. Oprah wants this. That was the jackpot. We are heading into a monster bestseller here.
She saw in my life a gold mine.
It's an untenable position to be in. A cruel exploiter of an innocent Holocaust survivor.
This is a fascinating story, isn't it?
Oh, yes, and I really enjoyed this. One of those documentaries where there's twist after twist and draws you to the edge of your seat, but also has something interesting to say about the nature of fame and success and believing that everything is that it seems. As I say, one of those documentaries where you can't quite believe it happened as it did, but I think it's really worth a look. Because of the twists, I can't really reveal too much more than that, other than to say it's very much worth checking out.
Okay, good stuff. Are we far away from the Oscars now? The Academy Awards, they can't be that far away, can they?
We're a few weeks away, yep. Lots of interesting contenders there. I think, speaking of Netflix, as we did earlier, it may be their big year with The Power of the Dog. Right. But very much interesting to see how they'll approach it this year with, award ceremonies in a different sort of state than they've been in historically because of the controversy surrounding the Golden Globes and a recent controversy that many of the categories for this year's Oscars won't be televised, which has obviously made the people involved in those categories protest. So a little bit embattled, but we'll see how it works out.
Good stuff. And you're right to sort of point all that out. I mean, the various conversations about the lack of black directors and the lack of black actors and in the nominated categories and the misappropriation in some cases of black culture in others. And of course, we have a unique interest as well because Kenneth Branagh's Belfast would, you'd imagine, be one of those that would be in contention for all of that. So something we'll watch closely in the weeks to come. James, always good to get your thoughts and your insight on that. And we'll speak again next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
James Luxford from Stratford-upon-Avon, our movie critic, with us this morning on BBC CWR. Let's bring you up to date on that issue.